Okay, so in this video, I want to talk to you about my recovery um, that has happened fairly quickly and been very surprising. If you're new to this channel, this is a channel for people who have been or are currently in a romantic relationship with somebody who has borderline personality disorder. And so this is how I have achieved some recovery in that. If you are a borderline, this channel is not meant to demonize you or to criticize you. Um, Both the borderline and the codependent are victims of this disorder. And so if you are a borderline, I have nothing personally against you. I wish you nothing but health and happiness. I do recommend that you get targeted therapy for borderline personality disorder so that you can, number one, be happy. So you can be happy so you can find love and find success in your life. And so if you want to watch these videos, you can know what it's like for the codependent, the non-borderline, what it's like to be in a relationship and how damaging the borderline illness can be to those you are connected with. So having said that, I called the people who are in relationships with a borderline codependent. So let me just start with that before I go any further. That has been extremely helpful for me. So as you heard, I gave a recommendation to borderlines that they get into targeted therapy. So the same is true for you. If you are in a relationship or if you have been in a relationship, you need to get targeted therapy for you. I'm not talking about couples therapy because I've seen a couple of people here complaining about, triangulation and, their therapist is taking the borderline side and all that. You need to get into therapy for your codependence, whether that's a 12-step group like Codependence Anonymous, or going to a therapist and talking about you and what's going on with you. Until you do that, you will always be a victim. Because if you survive and you get out of this relationship, if you don't become conscious of your codependence, then you will attract another sick person who will use you. I know, because listen, even though I know all this, since I've gotten out of this relationship, I can count three women who I believe were either borderline or had borderline tendencies. And I'm like, wow, I keep attracting these borderlines. That's because I'm a codependent. So nobody gets involved with a borderline who is completely healthy and comfortable. Because a healthy person, number one, is going to see that the borderline, that there's something off with them. They'll see very quickly. Their intuition will say, no, you want to stay away from this person. If you're honest, like with me, my intuition was telling me in the beginning when I first met her, my intuition was going, danger, Will Robinson. But I chose to push it aside. I mean, you wouldn't believe just the signs that were so clear. The universe was just telling me, stay away. But I didn't listen. So if you're with them, you're borderline. If you're with a borderline, you are codependent. Freudian slip. The truth is that you have borderline tendencies as well, because otherwise you wouldn't be attracted to them. I won't get into that. But anyway, that's the first thing. First thing is, from the beginning, even when I was in it, when I became aware that she was borderline, I had an awareness that I was codependent. Now, that awareness wasn't enough to get me out of the relationship. What it did do is it gave me the awareness at some point to create a boundary where I did say to her, listen, if I can't have any contact with you if you don't get therapy for borderline personality disorder. Now, she hasn't been diagnosed, but I made it a requirement that she at least go and see somebody who knows something about that. And I said, if you get a qualified therapist who says you don't have it, I'll be fine with it. But for my own safety, I can't continue to be with you unless you get therapy. And she initially agreed to that. She hemmed and hawed and then agreed to it and then was fully into it. And then she did what they do and she split. And then use that as the excuse. But to my, to my, you know, healing benefit, that became the reason why she finally completely broke it off with me and asked for no contact. Because it's interesting how ironic it is. Their behavior is so devastatingly traumatic that, what this woman would do is that she would say, "You're not safe. I can't be around you." And then she would say, because I had said she had borderline, "I can't be around somebody who thinks I'm insane. You're unsafe and you're trying to make me crazy." And you know what they do. It's so ironic, that their behavior is so harmful, but then you're the one that's, unsafe to them. Anyway, so to my credit, because I had put down that boundary, she knew that she was going to have to get help, and because she was in denial, that was the reason why she could completely break off all contact with me. Now, I don't know if she has tried to contact me. I don't think she has, because I think she knows that that's going to be my response, and also because what she did this last time was so horrifically painful. And the things that she did, the way that she betrayed me and hung me out to dry. I was so vulnerable to her and asked, I actually needed her help in some really significant ways, because I had gone down to where she was to, and put a deposit on a 3-bedroom house for us to live in, that I ended up living by myself with no furniture, and no internet, and it was horrible. And she rejected me and tossed me aside in just the worst way, and then turned around and said, things like, "I never really loved you anyway, and I never really cared about you." I mean, just horrifically painful things to just destroy the relationship. So I forgot what I was saying. Anyway, so one of the things I did is I moved back. I was willing, on paper it would have been a very bad idea, because I was financially committed to this lease, and I had put a lot of money into the deposit, what they call a bond down here. And but I knew that for my own health I had to get out of there. So I moved, and I was willing to walk away and be in default of the lease and whatever that meant, just to get out of there, because being that close to her was very, very bad news for me. And I was constantly thinking about her, knowing that she was 5 minutes up the road, and it was just horrible. So I got the hell out of there. I also, I went back and forth, but I broke off all contact and blocked her on my phone and on Facebook and email. The truth is, if she really wanted to, she could put the effort in and still contact me. There's still ways she could find to get around that. But the point is that I was making the effort and I was taking the action. And in fact, what ended up happening is that I stuttered with that. First I blocked her on my phone, and then I got back into denial, and I wanted her to contact me, so I unblocked her, and then I was checking my phone. Speaking of it, I was checking my phone every day to see if she had, and nope, it's not her. Oh yeah, I blocked her, so she couldn't even if she wanted to. And something in me shifted when I did that. I came back to where I was happy. I'm 3 hours north of her now. This is where I originally was, and this is, even though I'm on a tourist visa, feels like my home. I have friends here. I really like it here. I love the area. It makes me happy. Once I got back here, that shifted me a lot, and then I went deep into my own recovery. So part of that was making this channel, talking about my experiences, sharing with what I've seen and what I've known and what I've experienced. And I did that for my own healing. But I've learned that, in other 12-step groups, that people sharing with each other is how they heal. For me, talking about it puts it out there so that it's no longer inside of me, controlling me, and I can get some distance from it. But I talked with my therapist, and I talked with somebody else here that I used as a mentor, who I really admire. And this is somebody who has a successful relationship and has a successful life, and has a lot of things that I want. And I said, I want you to mentor me. I want to talk to you. So you've got to get out of your narcissism, which means you've got to reach out to people and try and get help. Not just talking to your friends or not talking to other victims and victimizing and binging and whinging about whining and complaining about your victimization, but talking with somebody who will reflect back to you. So you saw in the beginning how crazy they were, and you went and you kept on doing it. They split on you the first time, and they betrayed you that first time. That should have been enough. You kept going back. You went back for months or years. You married them, had a kid with them. Nobody forced you to do that. You need to have somebody who will do that, not somebody who will say, yeah, I know, and then they do this, and then they do that. I can see on here that there are people who are in a lot of pain who are not in, full recovery because they complain, and especially if somebody is demonizing them. Like if somebody wants to demonize them as being, less than human or evil or horrible people. They're not. They are people who have gone through horrific conditions that has caused them to have this mental disorder. And it's a big deal. Yes, they're incapable of having a relationship. They're fully incapable of being there for you and responding and having a relationship if they're not in therapy. But that doesn't make them evil people. They're very damaged. But they're extremely dangerous, and you have no business being in a relationship with them. And it's not healthy for them. If you really love them, the kindest thing you can do for a borderline is to say, listen, this is painful for me. It is damaging to me. I love you, but I can't be in a relationship with you unless you go get help. If you get help, then we can talk. Until then, I can't have any contact with you. That is the kindest thing you can do. Truthfully, the even kinder thing you can do for that is not even do that. Truth of the matter is, if they have been shown, and if everybody in their life did this, if everybody in their life said, listen, there's something not right with you, you're causing me damage, you need to get help. I can't have you in my life. It's the people that co-sign their bullshit and take care of them that keeps them in it. But if they knew, if they saw, because they're extremely resourceful when it comes to getting what they want, if they saw that the only way to have people in their life was to go get help, they would go get help. So the kindest thing you can do is to break off all contact. Say, listen, you are harming me. I believe you have borderline personality disorder. I can't be with you. Please go be with somebody else. Not go be with somebody else. Please go get help. Please go get help. There were two thoughts coming in at the same time. It's because I was remembering what I told her. Now, she split on me the last time, and she wanted to go no contact, which, of course, is a little different for her than me. But she wanted to go no contact because I had given her a boundary earlier on, which she was fully on board with until I said something. God forbid I said something that pushed a button. I was, taking care of her and giving her money and, all that kind of stuff and holding her in the worst times possible. But God forbid I said a sentence that pushed a button. Because I said one sentence, she had to break off all contact with me because I was trying to destroy her self-esteem and I was insidiously trying to make her feel crazy. And then I'm not going to go see the therapist. I'm not going to do this, whatever. And I can't have any contact with you. You're dangerous and unsafe. And, I said, listen, you realize that this is it. If we go no contact, that's it for life. And I said, how long do you expect, what are you thinking? You realize this is forever. And she says, okay, for at least for a couple of months. And I said, no. Look, what you've done to me is the most painful thing anybody has ever done to me in my entire life. And that's saying a lot. I came from a really, traumatic childhood myself. I've gone through, a horrific divorce and blah, blah, blah. What you've done in these past 4 months and in this last betrayal of my trust was more damaging to me than anything anybody has ever done. Even what she said to me, which I won't get into, you know how they are. And I said, please erase every contact you have with me, block me on every way that you can, never contact me again. And then I said, please get some help, because don't ever do this to somebody else. Please don't ever do to me. Please don't ever do to me what to somebody else. Don't do this to anybody else. And then I hung up on her. So I believe that set a pretty good precedent. Again, you never know with them, but I've set a no contact. Anyway, I'm starting to babble here, but point is that I am feeling so much better now. And I'll tell you, the main thing is I broke off all contact. I went completely no contact. I have been seeking out my own help. I am fully acknowledging that I am a codependent, and that I saw all of the red flags from the beginning, and I chose to continue to seek after it, even though there was more than enough signs. Even after the first split, which, to be honest with you, the first time she split on me, I was really having a hard time. I was trying to forgive her and keep the relationship going, and there was a part of me, the reason why she split, there was a part of me that was just saying, no, something is up here. And I kept on hammering away about saying, listen, you're not dealing with me in a cooperative way. This is not a two-way street, and I'm not ready to let go of this yet. And then she split on me. Now, had I stayed in my integrity, I would have said, you know what? As exciting as she is, there's enough evidence here to say that there's something really wrong and I can't be with this person. I didn't do that. I kept going back, and then that pulled me in like the octopus into it. And then I was deep into this thing that I couldn't get out. And then she just kept splitting on me. Sometimes every day. She'd break up with me every day, hoover me back in, get me crying and emotionally connected, and then split on me the next day. No rhyme or reason. And I started losing my sanity. And then I started feeling really sick, emotionally and mentally insane, and I lost my joy. Now imagine, for some of you who've been in this for years, what it must be like. So you need therapy. If you don't get therapy, then you're going to stay in this place for years. And I know some of you have left comments. I can tell you're still in it. Even though you don't have contact with them, you're still in it. And you have to look at your denial. You have to look at your brokenness, because they were attracted to you because you were broken. So that's the main thing that's been going on. And sharing your experience with others, I think, is helpful too. So I may continue to make these videos, but I'm kind of feeling like I may not need this anymore. I'm feeling a lot better, and I'm looking at what I've learned, and I've taken some strength out of this that I didn't have before. And I may have shared this, but one of them is I just don't put up with any shit from anybody. If I'm talking to a girl and we're sort of negotiating that beginning stage of a relationship, the moment that I see that she's going to be abusive or take me for granted or not communicate or something, I end it. And I don't make a big deal out of it. In fact, I don't even need to tell them why. I just tell them, sorry, this isn't working for me. Because I now know that when those red flags come up, you should listen to them. And there's a difference between, bumping egos and having to work through it, and somebody who shows you their character. And so I'm just not going to take anything less than, somebody who can meet me at my level. So anyway, I'll talk some more about it, but that's the focus I'm on now, is looking at my codependence. And here's the end result. The end result is I don't wake up in the morning thinking about her. I don't go to sleep thinking about her. I'm not constantly thinking about what, every now and then. It's getting less and less, but maybe once a day now I'll go into, rehearsing what I would say to her if she were to call me. But that's getting less and less. And I don't have any conscious memories of anything good anymore. I'm not um, looking back and romanticizing, aspects of the relationship. The parts of the relationship that I thought were us being in love and intimate, as I look back on it now, was superficial. There was nothing of substance there that I was projecting onto it or transferring onto her, feelings that weren't there, that hadn't been earned. So it's really interesting now, and I'm really very encouraged to look back and go, yeah, that week where we were just madly in love, I'm looking back on it and I'm going, there never really was a true connection there. We never really accomplished anything. It was all talk. And even during that so-called, honeymoon period, there was a lot of craziness and up and downs that were going on, and I was in a lot of anxiety throughout all of it. I was in a lot of denial. In fact, I remember when we first got together and I was going to brag to my friends and even my therapist about this woman that I saw, I remember consciously thinking about the things I wasn't going to tell them because I didn't want her to look bad. Because if I were to say, some of the things that happened, I knew that they would have gone, hang on, this doesn't sound right at all. I think you should back off and take your time. There's something up with her. Take your time. I consciously put that out of my mind and chose not to tell people that because I wanted them to co-sign my delusion that I was with my next soulmate, and I wasn't. And now that I have done this work, and now that I have this distance, and now that I've gone no contact, and I've started doing things that are healthy for me and make me happy, looking back on it, I realized there was really nothing there. There was no real relationship. And looking back on some of the things that she said and did, I'm realizing, she was really sociopathic in a lot of ways. And she just wasn't there. She didn't see me. So that's where I'm at. Anyway, I don't know what I said. I'm kind of babbling, but we'll talk more about it. And what I'm going to start moving towards now is, especially if people start, if there's more interest in this channel and people start leaving more comments, I'm going to start going in and pointing out your codependence, how you got yourself into this, and how some of you, I'm telling you right now, some of you who've left comments, you are deeply in your disease of codependence. You have major issues that you haven't dealt with for years, and you're just waiting for your next, abuser to come along and to gaslight you into being really screwed up and hurt. And so I'm gonna do what I do, and I'm gonna start pointing that out. So anyway, that's it for me now. We'll see what comes up later.